Welcome to Beyond the Blend, the podcast that goes behind the science and talks to the people at the heart of the lubricant market, telling the real story of the people who make the lubricant market move. With real insight and honest conversations, we aim to show off the people's side from across the entire lubricant supply chain. Join me, Steve Knapp, and Rob Taylor as we delve behind the scenes of the lubricant industry. Let's go.
So welcome along. As is customary on Beyond the Blend podcast, we're going to have a quick fire five to welcome our guest into the hot seat today. So as we welcome James Moorhouse, James, is it a CV or a resume?
CV. I'm British.
Professional development or a better salary?
Professional development.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Beer or wine?
Ooh, that's the toughest one so far. Wine.
And my favourite of the five, do you work well in a team or better on your own?
Team.
Brilliant. James, welcome along. Thank you for taking some time out with us. For those that don't know, we're talking a little bit about recruitment today, which is why some of those questions might have been more typically recruitment based. But James, we're about 50 miles apart, but it seems every time we meet in person is either in the States or in Europe. So we really need to make a better effort to meet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the beers are better in Yorkshire, as we all know, but yeah, the international nature of our work, takes us to all corners.
It really does.
It's lovely to see a familiar face from the homeland when you're there. So thanks for that, Rob.
I know, right? I remember recently we were in a field in the States and then another Yorkshire person turns up. It's always
we get everywhere. We get everywhere. So, yeah.
But James, it's early 2025. Are you one for New Year's resolutions, superstitions? What is a 2025 goal you've set for yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty structured in that. So New Year's Day is my goal setting day each year. It's probably something I think about a lot as you decompress over the Christmas holiday season. And I like it because that gives me clarity, that gives me focus on what I want to be achieving outside of work and in the workplace as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you do personal goals, life goals, as well as work?
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I see work as the vehicle to achieve the life goals. So in terms of priorities and goal setting, it's like, what do I want out of life? Okay, how do I get there? And my work's going to play a part in that.
It's good to hear that you take that deliberate step because I'm sure you speak to many businesses where work just happens and they're just busy. I'm just busy enough. Whereas I really like that deliberate time out, line in the sand. What went well? What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? Does that take a structure for you, or is it just literally just sit down with a pen and paper and spitball your year ahead? What does that look like?
Yeah, I am pen and paper, but I kind of set it into charts, like top 3 goals that I want, and then my second column is what do I have to do to get there? When can I see it happening by? And then what's the plan to make all of that happen? And picking up on what you said earlier, time just escapes you and you can kind of be like, oh God, there's another year gone. I feel this goal setting piece helps me take control of the direction I'm going in rather than just be reactive and like deal with what comes to you. I'm actually taking charge of it. Someone who likes to be in charge of things, that gives me a bit of a secure feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And share with what's exciting you about 2025. What's one thing that you've written down that you think, you know what, if I do that this year, it's going to be a bloody good year?
There's a couple of big holidays we want to tick off as a family. You're married. My daughter's 9, my son's 7. So there's a couple of experiences they were chatting about that they really wanted to go and do. So I'd love to try and make that happen. We've been hiring people for ABN in the USA in the second half of 2024 and just had another one start on the 6th of January. And that's really a market we're keen to push on as well. I can see that being our biggest sector over the course of the next few years. So growth within that, those are the big 2.
Yeah, good. It sounds like you've got it all mapped out. And yeah, your kids want big goals. Daddy has to go and work harder. I like that.
I should really be getting them to work to do it. But yeah, 9 and 7, apparently they're too young.
Oh, get a work ethic into them young, James.
Yeah. Well, I think I was out washing cars when I was their age. So
well, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
can be done.
Well, I mean, yeah. On that note, take us back though. I mean, what is your story? I mean, how, if you're the leading voice of recruitment into the lubricant space as of today, how on earth have you wound up doing that? Give us a bit of a background. Why are you doing what you're doing today, James?
Yeah, good question. I mean, if you ask kid James what he's going to do at the age of 41, but I am now, I wouldn't have envisioned this. And actually, I think if you spoke to a lot of people in the lubricants industry, they'd say, "Oh, I never expected to get into lubes." So maybe that's a job for us all to do in terms of how we communicate the sector to a wider audience and raise that awareness, because it's an awesome space to be operating in. I guess the potted history is I grew up in Scotland, having been born in England, but I relocated to Scotland when I was 6 weeks old. So I kind of consider myself half Scottish, half English, because I spent half of my life in one of those countries and the other half back in England. I left Scotland because I wanted to see what else was out there. I could kind of see how my life would look if I stuck around, and it would have been a nice life for sure, but there's got to be more to it than what's in front of me here. So that brought me to Leeds to study at university, and the one subject I liked at school was history, so I did history. Professionally, I wanted to do advertising, but it turns out when you graduate with a history degree trying to do advertising, a lot of people say, well, why didn't you study marketing or like something relevant? By that time, my parents had moved to like rural Scotland, so if I was going to go home, I would have been a forester or a farmer. Didn't want to do that. All the advertising jobs I was getting offered was come and work for free. I couldn't do that because I'd just graduated as a student and had no money. So I rang one of my mates, said, "Have you got a space in Leeds for me to sleep? Because I need to come and get a job." He said, "Yeah." So came down to Leeds on the Wednesday. The space that he gave me was his floor. I started working in a temporary office job just to get some cash going in whilst applying for other roles. And that was through a recruitment agency called Adecco. And at the time, they were the world's biggest recruitment company. And I went to hand in my pay slip to Neil, the recruiter, at the end of the week so I could get my money. He's like, "How was your week, Neil?" So, "Oh, it's been a nightmare. I've had 3 people leave the company." I was like, "Oh, does that mean there's a job for a trainee?" I still don't know why I asked that question. But 1 week later, I was on the other side of the desk doing recruitment, sitting alongside Neil, placing people. Learned a lot in that, enjoyed it. But, that high street pace of recruitment wasn't really for me. So I then joined an executive search company in Leeds, which was brilliant. Stayed there for, 9-10 years, something like that. And that's when I also started getting into lubricants, because they said, "Look, you've got to find a market to work in." And everyone always says, do something that you enjoy. And I enjoy motorsport. So when I watched motorsport, all of these oil companies were on the side of cars, motorbikes, trucks that I was watching week in, week out. I thought, well, I wonder if I just could speak to those companies and I might score a few tickets to motorsport events and, make a bit of money along the way. And it just kind of snowballed from there, discovered what a great industry it is, fantastic people. I wouldn't call myself an engineer or a technical guy, but I do love getting to grips with the variety of applications and the performance of products. And there's some really novel, innovative things going on all the time. So, that's kept me engaged in it. And then started my own business back in 2012, focus on the lube space. That's been a whole new world of challenge, engagement, variety, and fun.
In equal measure, I'm sure.
Sometimes at different stages. Yeah. Challenge, then some fun bits, and then,
A little bit of fun in there as well. You mentioned before that sort of whistle-stop history of yours, that the industry seems to not tell its story very well. I guess we probably agree with you on that, because that's kind of the reason we've started this podcast and why we continue to have conversations with people like yourself. Because I think, and I'd be interested on your perspective around this, I think there's a lot of stigma in the industry or perception in the industry that you have to be an engineer or a scientist. And I think, to your point earlier, it's I was surprised I could get into it because I'm not an engineer. And we don't tell the story very well. I mean, why do you think that is? And what's missing in this sector, this market?
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the stigma point on like whether you have to be scientist, you have to be engineer, because as you and I know, you don't have to be. I actually think the bigger problem is nobody really knows about lubricants. If you speak to Joe Blogs, you know, as an industry, we're never going to get to a point where you approach a random person out of the 8 billion global population and they're going to give you an answer on what lubricant is. We're never going to get that famous. But it's so important to try to engage not just STEM talent, but people in education, at school, at universities, and then people in early, mid-career and exec career. That's the audience we need to be communicating to, because I have to say that when we are doing our day job and recruiting people, sometimes we have to go outside of the sector and find people with transferable skills. When you actually sit down opposite a person and say, look, this is the lubricants industry, this is the size of it, these are the kind of companies that operate in it, these are the kind of things you could be doing, this is what the career looks like. It's super exciting. And you can see the lights in their eyes switch on and they're like, wow, never knew about this. That sounds amazing. I want to get involved. But we're just one company doing it. It could really do with a more joined up approach. Things like this podcast is great to raise awareness. So I commend you for that initiative. But trade bodies, associations, companies themselves, they all need to be taking a look at how they do things better when it comes to raising awareness and communicating to an audience what life in lubricants look like.
Why is that? Why is it not happening? What's the hesitance?
Everyone's got a day job, right? If you're trying to get orders out the door or a big customer over the line, or you're fighting things like COVID, inflation rates, supply chain issues, geopolitical tensions, you name it, it just falls down the priority list.
Storytelling becomes a bit of a less of a priority, right?
Which is a pity, because it's there's that diagram, isn't there, where I think it's like three cavemen, and one of the guys comes along with a wheel and says to like the cave guys that are pushing a massive heavy trunk through soil, he's like, hey, have you got 5 minutes? I got something that could help you. And they're like, no, we're too busy. We'll ignore you selling us a wheel and just keep pushing this massive bit of heavy equipment, which will take us forever. And I actually think a lot of the problems and challenges we face in the industry right now could be fixed if we raise that awareness and get more people involved.
You mentioned about transferable skills. So you probably go out to market and bring the skills in. Are the organizations that you're working with actively looking outside of the industry, or are they part of the issue and concern in that respect?
Well, they might not want to, but the reality is they're starting to have to. So the really important point to say here is we have amazing people in the industry. Like, there is a lot of good people out there doing valuable work that's adding a lot of value to the companies and customers that they serve. But the amount that are leaving are not being replaced by the same amount of people joining. And to a degree, that's okay. We've had advances in technology. The rise of AI, I think, is going to be really interesting in its impact on workplace numbers. So we maybe don't need the exact same amount of headcount as before, but we definitely need new skill sets coming in, new experiences, diversity of thought, and backgrounds to challenge some of the innovation question marks that hover over the sector. So coming back to your original point, we might get a brief where they want a lubricants person, but for whatever reason in that location with that skill set, they don't exist. So then we have to go to other sectors and look for a transferable skill set. And as long as that person is onboarded professionally, given ongoing support, training, development, there's a lot of benefits to bringing that kind of outsider in.
Yeah, and I want to touch more on that in a little while about the research and the workplace, marketplace research that you carry out and what new talent does actually want. It might differ from what businesses perceive that talent wants, especially as the generations shift and expect different things. But just before we do that, I just wanted to dive back in a little bit to your work-life balance with home, because you mentioned a couple of times that everyone's got a day job, right? We're busy. How do you manage that when you are the head of the business. You are the face of the business, the voice of the business. The goal of the business is on you, but you also have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old and a wife. How are you holding boundaries and keeping yourself disciplined with that? What's your message to those who might be struggling with a bit of balance in their life?
Well, that's the key, actually. It's setting boundaries. You only have so much time in the day, so it's understanding what your key priorities are and making sure those are executed. I used to think like being available 24/7, and taking phone calls at 10 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock in the morning was like a great thing to do for service. But actually it just sends out a message that like, hey, I'm always here and I can be your bottom level priority, and therefore you get treated as such. So in reality, all of those late night calls and early morning starts just led to a lot of frustration and no results. So I just stopped doing that. I'm fortunate to have a bit of experience to reflect on now, and having learnt some of those lessons, work things a little bit differently. But other things that have been massive in the last 5 years is we've gone from office-based environment to fully remote environment. That's saving me the best part of 2 hours a day, not going in and out of an office, which is 2 hours I can use to take my kids to school, pick them up from an after-school club, get some quality time with them when they're at an age when they still actually want to talk to their dad. And that's really nice because it won't be there forever. But I still feel with kind of that prioritization, clarity of task, and being ruthless with your time management, you can be effective, deliver the service you need to your customers, and have a life outside of work. I'm fortunate that Anna, who's my wife, she's super supportive of what I have to do. There's a bit of travel with the job. There's times when I'm not going to be around. She's okay with that and will, pick up all of the tasks that have to be done associated with running a family when I'm not around. So it's a team effort, really.
Because there's a big conversation, isn't there, about the work from home, remote working, or office-based working. Do you think there is a standard answer to that? If work from home is better than working in the office, or is it organisation dependent?
I think it's person dependent, actually. There's some people being remote really benefits, and there's others it would be a complete nightmare for. I think over the last 4 or 5 years, people have started to understand what kind of person they are in the workplace and how they'd like things to be. And that's starting to impact how they want to work, whether it's remote, something between the two, or in the office.
So do organisations need to catch up in that respect? Do they need to think differently? If it's been people-led, people demanding change, should organisations change what they're doing, do you think?
Yeah, I think organisations would be well served to take time to listen to individuals and implement the feedback. If you want top talent, you've got to listen to what the talent's saying and demanding, and be flexible. We hear from a lot of companies, it's like, well, you've got to get into the office because it's better for collaboration, or you got to get into the office because it's better for creativity. I'm like, okay, show me how, why. Like, I can point you to remote teams that have come up with incredibly creative solutions to problems and not sat around a table doing it. So you got to kind of home in on the person and the team and find the best way to work, rather than be overly prescriptive and one size fits all. This is what we're going to do.
And just one final bit around how your sort of personal philosophy bleeds into your professional there. You mentioned around boundaries, and you have real discipline about, once I've finished, I've finished. Yeah. I liked how you said, if I'm your lowest priority at 10 o'clock at night, then it's a bad relationship. I think that was quite an important point. Because we can always do more, can't we? I'm a victim for it myself. I walk through the door after a busy day at work. The first thing you do is check your WhatsApp or your email. It's like, come on, there needs to be a line somewhere. And it does become a habit. And do prospective placements and clients that you're positioning for recruitment, do they think that they have to be available 24/7? Whereas it's a bit of a misconception. It's actually a weakness, not a strength, potentially.
I think the relationships we have with our customers, we kind of, if it's a new relationship, we set our stall out early. It's like, okay, How do you like to be communicated to? When are you going to be available? What's your expectations of us? And when we've got all of that, we put across, how things would need to be for us to work the most effectively. And then we got a common ground and a common understanding, and the rest of it flows.
So you're looking for a cultural fit with yourself as well, I guess. You're not just there to, what did you call it, a high street recruitment where you started in your early days was very fast paced, almost place anyone. You're very much more considered culturally.
Well, this is it's proper, what I would call consultative work, and cultural alignment is a bigger part of our job than finding the right skills and experience fit. So if I'm speaking to businesses that I get a great feeling about their culture, I know they're going to be a happy home for the people we place them in. And, that's why I think over 85% of the hires we've done in the last 7 years still work at the company we've placed them at, because we know they're going into good businesses and that person is the perfect person culturally for that company.
See, I should have asked that as one of my quick fire 5 at the beginning, cultural skills. I think it's...
It's difficult though, because team player, work by self. I mean, the amount of CVs I've read where it's like, I can do both. It's good to make you choose one.
Yeah, well, I might have put that there on purpose, who knows? But on that point though, you can teach skills, but you can't teach attitude. There's a common phrase around it, isn't there? It's somewhere in what I've just said is where it's at. And does that ring true in what you see?
Yeah, train for skills, hire for attitude.
That's the one.
That's what we say. I mean, we've obviously stolen that from somebody else, who unfortunately I can't remember. But yeah, I think for us, that's the one thing you can't really. You can only change so much a person's attitude. At the end of the day, it's a lot of that's on them. And you have to provide the right environment for the right attitude and behaviours to come out, but mostly the skills.
I can imagine you have conversations with organisations who are a bit impatient, though, who just want this. I just want someone now who can do it. Do you have to almost fight the corner of the person who you're trying to place in this organisation? Say, look, they've got the right attitude. You're just going to have to train them up. Is there a bit of a push and pull between that relationship sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, the red flag ones are ones where they're like, hey, we need this person to come in and hit the ground running and deliver results within 3 months. And I'm like, okay, tell me about your sales process. Oh, well, typically we get deals in 6 months to 9 months time. I'm like, okay. So why is the new person who doesn't work there and know anything about your business got half the time to deliver the results? That's a bit of needs discovery and understanding what the actual problems are in the business. But I have to say, in our experience, most lube companies are pretty chill like this. They appreciate what it's going to take to get up and running and give people the right amount of time and support to do that.
That's good to hear. That it's quite culturally aware that it's going to take time to bring people up to speed. I think that's refreshing. That's a learning for me. I think that's good to see. Again, that's something we need to tell the story around the industry and the market. Is there to develop people, not just expect people to churn out numbers.
Mate, there's so many good stories to get out there. Just they don't get out there
because they're busy. Yeah, listen, let's move on to where I wanted to explore around the great work that you do with your talent report. I've certainly seen I think it was 2023 and 2024 certainly stuck out for me, and I know it's almost industry recognized, I think, and it's got you on stages talking based on the input and data points that are included in that report. So congratulations on developing that. I want just to try and get a few highlights out of the 2024 report for those who haven't seen it. For those listening, I encourage you to go and find it yourself. I think it's on your LinkedIn and your website, James.
Yeah.
They can find the report for free. One thing that struck me, and please do give us a broader exec summary of the report, but job satisfaction in the industry is 63% are satisfied. I mean, that seems higher than what I thought it would be. Did that surprise you? What did you take away from the 2024 report?
Well, in terms of finding the report, if you just Google 2024 Lubricants Talent Report, it'll be the first hit on Google. And, I've got to give credit to my colleague Eva, who heads up our marketing she really spearheaded that project and got the data in place, and has done a fantastic job, because what it's given us is a truly global view on how the lubricant workforce is feeling, and a lot of valuable data which we can share with customers on, okay, if you're recruiting in this region for this kind of job, these are the challenges you're up against. These are the solutions you can have in place to make sure you get the right people in your team. Also gives a lot of good career guidance to people as well. That 6 out of 10 job satisfaction was really interesting. I think it shows an improvement from where people were at in 2023, where I think it was hovering in the 40s. So nice upward trend and some positive movement and people becoming more satisfied. I think the caveat to that is we're a recruitment company that goes out to 26,000 people in the lubricants industry, a series of questions to answer. Not all 26,000 respond. I wish they did. But it's almost a bit of a self-selecting audience.
Yes.
I'd probably argue that someone who's less satisfied in their job is going to be more likely to participate in the survey than one who is. But interestingly, with the data and numbers we got this year, which was a record year, there was a lot more passive as well as active, as well as I'm absolutely not looking for anything, but I'll still answer your question responses. So that was great. But what I've said to customers is, if someone said, hey, we rate your lubricant 6 out of 10, would that be a score you're satisfied with? And everyone says no. And I'm like, well, that's what your workforce is saying. So, whilst it's improving, it's still a lot of work to do. We need to be getting up to 8s and 9s and closer to a 10.
What's I don't know if you'll know the answer to this or not, but as a rule of thumb, what's made the shift from the mid 40s up to the early 60s in satisfaction? Has something happened? What's going on?
I think people are seeing more exciting stuff to get engaged with, some reasons to stick around. So, there's some key themes running through the industry at the moment around sustainability initiatives, regulations and the impact that they're having on the sector, new product development. There's new market sectors opening, things like immersion cooling for data centers, which, was something nobody spoke about 3-4 years ago to any great degree. So there's like a lot of cool stuff going on. And actually it feels, in the 20 years I've been in the market, there's not been a more exciting time than now in terms of the opportunities that exist and that you can develop in. So I think that's boosting satisfaction. So
so there's more varied roles, which is interesting, which plays into the transferable skills into the industry, I guess, from your point earlier on.
Another one, Rob, was pay. So in 2023, pay didn't really move that well. 2024, pay moved more to where it should be. When you look at inflationary pressures, cost of living, and then actually getting a pay rise to take you above that and have a quality of life boost. And the data shows that people were earning more, and that had a direct link to their level of satisfaction, because it was the highest level of satisfaction was reported by C-suite execs. C-suite execs also got the biggest pay rises.
See, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, because one of the things I was going to ask you about was how important is money? Is there a point where it becomes less motivating? Yes, you need to hit your threshold. You need to hit your cost of living. Your bills need to be paid. But at what point does it become less relevant? Because from what you're saying, it sounds like it's wholly important.
Yeah. So right now, as we speak at the beginning of 2025, we know from that report that money is the number one. 2023, it ranked as number 3 as a motivation factor in why you go to work.
And what was 1 and 2 above that? Was
career progression, opportunities was 1, and this kind of quality of life piece, whether you call that work-life balance or flexibility in work. People in 2023 were like, if I have the right level of money, I'm all right with that. Because if I've got career progression and it's giving me a life that I want, like that's more important to me right now. But in 2024, where we started the year with geopolitical issues, massive inflation, it very quickly just became, I need more cash.
Wow. Is it a surprising insight? I think it probably does surprise me a little bit, because I was expecting career progression. I was expecting sustainability of the organization and personal development almost to be above money, because I thought people would almost hide from the fact that, money's the most important for me.
Yeah. Well, and all of those things you just listed around career progression, learning and development, so their own professional development, be that by staying at their employer or moving employers to get more learning and training elsewhere. People 100% still look for that. I think if I was recruiting as a lubricant company, I'd be making sure that my compensation is competitive with where it needs to be in the industry. But then I'd really be hitting home, if you join us, this is what a career could look like, not just the job. Because people do want to see a long-term future. And the other thing I'd be emphasizing is, to help you get you there, we're going to give you learning, support, external, training, internal training, mentorship from colleagues. You're going to have all the tools available to you to get you to where you want to be. Because if you can put those three things together of career progression, the support to get there, and give them the right money, that's a tough proposition to be.
It sounds to me like another story to be telling there, James, as well.
Yeah.
Organizations need to prioritize this, don't they? It's they seem to be doing everything else. But I wanted to have a little bit of fun as well, James, before we wrap up. A little bit of fun, but hopefully with a serious underline to it. CV horror stories. I mentioned at the beginning with the 5 quick-fire questions. I've done it myself on a CV before. I worked for myself years ago. I work well on my own, but also as well in a team. How many? That's surely that is everyone. That's every person in the world. So
yeah, total waste of space on a CV.
So tell us, if it's a waste of space, why are we doing it? What do we do wrong on CVs? For those listening now who think, I want to stand out, what are they doing wrong currently?
Yeah, well, you need to write a CV or resume for our American audience. You need to write it for the job that you want, for the job that you're going for. And I don't mean, I've seen an advert, I'm going to tweak this specific to that role. I mean, that certainly helps. But if you're a sales manager looking to step up to sales director or VP level, you need to show sales director or VP level qualities in the experiences that you've got. A good CV for us would list those achievements to show that you've got the capabilities to operate at that level. And every line on that CV needs to make an impact. So I think a good test is you read the sentence on the CV, ask yourself, so what, at the end of the sentence. And if the so what answer is either in your head or you're speaking it and it's not on the paper, that's the transformation that needs to happen. You need to put the impact or the result or what you've delivered on the CV. Employers can read between the lines from your achievements and the impact you're making about what your role is, or, they can deduce from the company title where you're working and have an appreciation for what they do and what that's about. But all the white space needs to be filled with writing about the impact you're making, the value you can add, and why you'd be a strong asset for that business.
And are CVs or resumes, are they still as important as they once were? Are they more important now? Because our organizations seeing a list of names and ultimately going on LinkedIn to check them out without people knowing? Or is it a mix of both? How important is digital in modern recruitment?
Well, it is changing, but I mean, the CVs aren't going away. Kind of like the fallback. Oh yeah, sounds good. Send me a CV, will you? But probably once that CV's landed and piqued interest, they are definitely looking at things like LinkedIn, social media. What's your digital footprint? Is anything weird and wonderful sitting there that we need to know about? Yeah, increasingly, a lot of hiring is done through networking, referrals, being a known entity. So anyone who's serious about career management, I can't emphasize enough the value of building a professional network, because the beauty of that is you get opportunities before anybody else does. In some instances, you're not competing against anybody else for that opportunity. Actually, a lot of stuff gets created around those relationships, which wouldn't happen if that relationship wasn't in place. So that's a massive thing that people need to be doing.
That's really interesting, because you mentioned about personal brand, which is what you're pretty much alluding to there. Known, like, trusted, personal branding. People immediately shy away from that. They don't like it. I'm not a celebrity. It's not me. But ultimately, that's what people are buying, isn't it? So you have to, because it goes back to the corporate storytelling. You've got to tell your own story. You've got to stand up and stand for something.
I get it. I mean, I might not always come across this way, but I would like to think I'm a fairly modest guy. There's definitely times in my life I felt imposter syndrome, pushed myself out my comfort zone. For a lot of people, putting stuff out on LinkedIn can evoke all of those feelings, and they just don't feel worthy enough or important enough to be doing it, or it's like, oh, that's just showing off or whatever. But it's not. It's no matter who you are, you all have a story to tell, which is your own story, and the people that buy into that are going to be the ones that could really accelerate you as an individual. So you don't have to start with something big and impressive. You can just make a start and be consistent with it. You see a lot of people with a social strategy and kind of brand development, just starting, going hard for 2-3 months, not seeing enough likes or comments and quitting. But I mean, the amount of people I have coming up to me at events saying, oh, you're James from ABN, which is really nice, because it always used to be like, I'm James from ABN, and they'd be like, who's that?
Yeah.
Now there is a bit of an awareness raising from, some really interesting people. I'm like, oh, out of interest, like, how did you know? And they're like, oh, we've seen the stuff you do on LinkedIn. I'm like, all right, you've never liked anything. You've never commented on anything.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We chase likes, we chase funny emojis, we chase this. But similar to you, the amount of times people said, oh, it's you. Oh, I know you already. And the ice is already broken.
Oh, like, it's, trust is there from the first conversation, because it's like they feel they already know you.
Yeah. You don't need to do that dance of rapport building anymore. It's done. You mirror something I say very often. It's got to be persistent. You've got to be consistent. You can't crash diet this whole thing of, oh, I posted everything and nothing happened, so I gave up. Little bits. Habit building is very, very important.
Similar to what you said with New Year's resolutions at the beginning of the call, right? That's like, I'm not really into resolutions. I mean, I will goal set every year, but I also know there's consistency of action. Stuff I will have done in December, I will repeat in January, and I'll repeat in February, because I know it gets me results. So, having that discipline to do that.
Absolutely. And James, to wrap us up, what's next for you? What's the next quarter looking like for ABN? You got a busy one ahead?
Yes, I think we do have a busy one, which is great. We've noticed a real turnaround in the recruitment space, I'd say, from September 2024 to present day, January 25. We've been fortunate enough to pick up some amazing new companies to recruit for. Our customer base has typically been privately owned, SME or medium size organizations that are operating either regionally or more often globally. We've been able to add a lot of value to them because they maybe don't have even an HR department or sophisticated recruitment techniques. So we've added a lot of value by being their outsourced partner for that. But now with what we've done in the last 2 months, I'd say we're kind of more recruiting for the household famous known names in the sector, which is a big step change for us and a big opportunity as a business to get into those businesses more and do more work with them. So yeah, I'm really bullish about strong growth in 2025. We've got a fantastic team sitting across UK, Europe, South America, North America, China. So, we're slowly taking over the world, starting from Yorkshire, but we've built our way out. And I continue, USA is a big one. We've got a lot of work to do there before I think we can be on a similar footing to where we are in Europe. But once we get USA market to a size, then we've got plans to go Asia, Middle East. And I think that'll pretty much have the world done by then.
Well, I, for one, am enjoying your journey and excited to see where it goes next. And hopefully we can meet in another field in a different continent somewhere and talk about Yorkshire again. James, wrap us up. Where can we connect? How can we find the talent report? And where can we see the good work that you do?
Well, abnresource.com is our website. That is full of resources like our white papers, talent report. We're writing blogs and thoughts every 2 to 3 weeks on there to help people manage their careers or recruit effectively. So that's very good. LinkedIn, ABN Resource, company page, very strong. If you type in James Moorhouse, if I've done my job effectively, I should be up there in your first hit on LinkedIn as well.
James, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to dig into your journey, your story, and the good work that you're doing in the lubricant space. Keep it up, and we'll chat again soon.
All right, Rob. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Blend. Be sure to follow us to catch next and future episodes as we continue to explore the people within the lubricant market.